What's going on, everybody? Today I'm going to be making this Coldplay vintage concert poster using Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop. Let's get started. Okay, so concert season recently started up for me a couple of weeks ago almost, and it was first one was Tool up in Louisville, and tomorrow night I'm going to see JoJo, 2000s pop singer, not the current pop singer. I have to tell my teenagers that. It's like, nope, it's the one from the 2000s. Anyway, I don't think those two concerts could be any more different from each other, but hey, good music is good music, right? Anyway, so here we go. I'm going to be using this Jim Morrison and the Doors vintage concert poster as an example, as inspiration, really just kind of what to follow here. I've always really liked these, and I've always wanted to make like one of these vintage style before. So I've got so typically I do 18 by 24 for the sizing of most of my posters, but this one I'm going to do 18 by 27 because they tend to be a little bit long. They tend to be a little bit on the longer side. So I'm going to go something like that, and the font that I'm going to use is actually going to be Interstate. And that's this font right here. And we've got, it's really good because we've got a condensed version, and we also have a regular version as well. I think most of what I'm going to do is going to be the condensed version because I want that nice tall display look to the type for the most part. So we'll just kind of see what we've got. For now, I'm actually going to just use this black background as I'm doing Illustrator, and then I'll actually do the gradient later in Photoshop. But I just want to get everything laid out in terms of where everything is going to go. So I have a 1-inch margin around all the sides. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push that down a little bit further. I think I'm going to be a little bit more generous with it than this Doors poster here, right here. So let's go ahead and fix a little bit of this kerning. And for the most part, this font does a pretty good job of optical kerning whenever you use the optical choice for Illustrator. It does a pretty good job with it. I just want to make a couple of adjustments, and then we can convert to outlines. I'm going to select, I'm going to ground the anchor point up to the top right there, and then what I'll do is, since I've got 1 inch, I believe it is 1 inch of margin going around, do the same thing here. So, or is it 2 inches? No, it is 1 inch. Okay, cool. So 1 inch on all sides. And this text right now, even though it's white, it will be black once we actually add in that gradient background. So I'm just gonna do a Coldplay show right here, and there's not gonna be too much going on here in terms of text at the top, and that's kind of intentional. But what I'll do here is I'm going to go ahead and make a shape, and that shape is actually going to be the stand-in for where the image is going to be. So one of the things that you can tend to see on posters like this is they use a lot of these bars. So I'm going to do this as a way to kind of underline the main act right there. And let's go ahead and make it like a standard. They're usually pretty thick. Like you can kind of see stuff like this right here. This particular poster doesn't have it, but you tend to see them. It is a little bit too thick. I think I'll bring it down to that size right there. And then let's do a space after that, maybe a little bit more. Let's go all the way up to a 1/2 inch, see how that looks. Okay, that looks good. All right, so slap this right here in the middle, and then I'll do probably, oops, okay. I think that's good right there. It's 1.5 inches. I think that's right. And so it's 14 inches going across, and we'll do 8 inches going down. And since I am in Nashville, or around Nashville, I will do Bridgestone Arena. And I'm thinking that I'm gonna keep it, yeah, compressed. Maybe I'll do bold instead of black, and we'll just kind of see how that looks. And I'm not going to worry too much about the kerning on that particular piece of information. So I'm just going to go. I think, yeah, I like that right there. In fact, I may actually bring this in a little bit just to kind of give it a little bit more of an authentic look. It usually didn't go full width like that. So let's make sure that we do that. And I'd like for the spacing to be about the same. So I believe this was 1.5 inches. All right, so Bridgestone Arena. And I'm just gonna make up a date. I'll use I'll just make up a date. February 6th, 2017. Sounds like a good date to me. In fact, I think February 6th is when that was one of my Jenny Lewis concerts, so that's fun. In fact, let's do this. See how I'm gonna copy this exact style that they've got going on for the date right here. So do that, and then we'll do an underline for it. And I may come in and thicken up that underline just a little bit. And in fact, I think I'm gonna remove that underline, and then we'll go back in and change it. So I'm not sure why they did that hyphen right there, but it's fine. We'll just kind of go with it. I'm not going to question designers from back in the 60s. It's not a smart thing to do. Okay, and then let's see. I kind of like the 8 p.m. to we don't know how long they're gonna play. And I think for this, I am going to go to standard, interstate standard, and let's kind of bring down the sizing of that as well. So we'll go about half the size of it, and I think that I may go up to black, or no, not ultra black. I'll just go up to black. All right, so that's good right there, and then. Do we want to adjust those tickets for inflation, or do we want to say that Coldplay is a bunch of time travelers and tickets are only $5? Let's do this. Let's say $10. Well, no, I guess not. But we're doing 2017. So 2017 in an arena show, if they were all the same price, I'm going to say $85. So $85, all seats reserved. And we'll just go with that. Or, you know what we could do? Here you go. Tickets 85 plus. And then we'll just use a bar like that to separate the text. Okay. And then we'll just do Coldplay.com. And I may even do, you know what? I don't like the way that looks. I don't know, for some reason it looks a little bit too... I don't know what it looks to, but it just does. It looks... But you know what? It's fine. Just for the sake of consistency, I will leave it, and we'll go Ticketmaster.com as well. All right, so I think that's looking pretty good. So as you can see right here, we have the overall structure of what these vintage concert posters look like, and then what we'll do is we'll add in the color and we'll add in effects once we get into Photoshop. So I'm going to go ahead and convert all of these to outlines, and let's get our spacing exactly how we want it. And since I did 2 inches from the bottom, it may be a little bit too much with text that's that small. But what we'll do is we'll grab all of these right here, including that box, and we'll just kind of evenly space everything out. So, all right, so this is looking good. I am going to grab all of this, no fill, no stroke, right here and just put a shape around it. That way it carries it over to Photoshop. And so we're going to copy all of this over, and I've already got an 18 by 27 set up for this. Let me make sure that I don't have a bleed on it. I do have a bleed on it, but I don't have it in Illustrator, so I don't want to cause any trouble there. Let's go ahead and clear guides. That way we can just paste this in right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm using this particular paste as a reference so that I can drop in the rest of these items. So that right there is going to be it's going to be a separate item, and we'll just hide it for now. And everything else, I'll go ahead and lock this, and these two right here, I'll just copy this over. I just noticed that I never did add that underline to the date, so I'll go back and do that once we get this set in place. Okay. All right, let's do this real quick so I don't forget. And I think I'll just do it like that. I think that may actually look best. Or why don't we do this so we can match that same weight right there. And do that. Okay, and grab all of this and unite it as one shape. Perfect. All right, so let's grab the white box. And before this gets too out of hand, I am going to go ahead and name each one of these layers. Just call that image right there. And this one we're going to call header. And this one is just the framework, so that will actually be deleted eventually. And let's call this background. And we'll go in and actually color that with the gradient pretty soon. Let's see. Bring over Bridgestone. There could be a faster, more time-efficient way to do this, but this is what works for me. I've been doing it. I've been doing this way for so long. I like to create the structure in Illustrator first because things are a little bit easier to work with when you're moving things around and like getting that precision on all of these different things. Just notice that I'm going a little bit fast and not naming these layers, so let me slow down for a second. And do this because it can definitely get out of hand. Okay, date. And then arena. Perfect. All right, so now we can go to tickets. Tickets have gone up a lot, haven't they? I was talking to somebody recently about ticket prices for concerts, and she was like, well, you know, there's gas, you know, like and stuff like that, you know, like the gas is really high right now, and I'm just like, yeah, but like it's been this way for a long time. Like I remember paying, you know, maybe $25-$35 to go to an arena concert, you know, 20 years ago. And, you know, of course times have changed, obviously. But, you know, it just seems like they've gotten so expensive now. All right, so I am going to say header, image. I'm gonna put these in order just because I'm very particular about stuff like that. Let's see, arena, date, time, tickets, and then sites. Okay, perfect. All right, so now we can delete the structure of this as kind of like, you know, that was giving us the guide, and then we'll just bring that background back right there. I went ahead and grabbed, I found this image of Coldplay. I'm going to use this one. And then what we're going to do is, since that's, you know, quite a bit smaller than our actual box, I'm going to bring this up. That's not really going to be an issue. And we'll just clip it into here. And it looks like we're just kind of clipping off a couple of members there. So let's see what we can do just to get them in there as much as we can. And then another thing that we can do is if you run into a situation like this, just go in, and what we'll do is we'll just add an inch or half an inch on both sides, an inch overall. So, okay, that's good. So that way we're still not exactly, in line with this on the sides right there, but it still is giving, a good shot of those, of the band members. Okay, so Coldplay, and what I'm going to do here is, since it was very typical for these images to be in black and white, I'm going to go ahead and do a threshold effect, and we're going to clip it just to the layer of the image of the band. And I may or may not keep this, or I may just do a black and white. I may just turn it black and white, actually, because I do believe that in our, that's an actual raster image, so I think we'll do the same thing. So we'll do black and white, and we'll just clip it to this so it doesn't affect the gradient color when we do the background. All right, and then what I'll do here is go back to the layer, and I'm going to bring up the curves, and I just want to kind of dramatically increase those contrasts just a little bit. Something like that. I think that's good. I think I said increase. I meant to say decrease. All right, let's go in here and let's see what we can do for adding like a halftone pattern. So something that you would see a lot. So like we'll just do like a dot halftone pattern right there. Size. Yeah, I want to really bring down the contrast significantly. It was way too high before. Sorry. So I think the size of 2 looks good. 1 is a little bit too fine of detail, but as you can see right here, we'll go all the way in, and we'll also add in some effects here to kind of give it an aged look a little bit later. But I think this is looking good for the most part. So let me go ahead and grab this image, and this is going to be temporarily placed in here just so I can grab these colors. And this is where we'll actually do the color gradient. So we're just going to do a gradient of 3 colors, and we're going to start with that nice rich pink at the top, and then go like for this really nice warm yellow, and then going into this green right here. And since yellow and green are so close to each other on the color spectrum, let's really bring up this yellow. And maybe oh wait, you know what? Let's do this. Let's duplicate that green. Oops. And we'll bring it to about probably right there. I think that looks good. That yellow section is a little bit thicker in our original, so let's see what we can do to improve that. Okay. Sometimes you really have to play around with these. It's you look at the poster and you think, oh, okay, well we're using pink to yellow to green, but there's placement, and there's different values that you have to consider and things like that to make sure that it all looks good. Okay, so I think that is looking good for that. And what I'm going to go ahead and do here is I'm going to go ahead and change all of these colors to not 100% black, as you know from any previous videos where I've mentioned this, because we're going to be adding in some effects and things like that. So we want to make sure that they all show up. All right, let me group all of this together so it's a little bit easier to work with. Okay, arena, and then we'll just copy, and we'll just apply these to all of our different layers. I like to keep them separate, just in case, just in case you're looking at something, like what works in Illustrator may not always work in Photoshop once you add in all of the effects and everything. So I like to be able to move things around if I need to. All right, so in looking at this, I think it's starting to look really good. One of the things that you would definitely see on these older concert posters is a non-white background, basically, and it would be a little bit on the saturated side, but not too much. Probably something like around here or something like that, and that's really going to help us when we bring in our paper effects. So I'm in here in my design resources folder, which is now and has always been a huge mess, nowhere near the organization level that I want. But for some reason, I've never updated it. So I like this one a lot. This definitely looks like something that would be on a like on a poster like this. So let's kind of drag this over here. Bring it all the way to the top, and I'm going to center it on X and Y. And what we'll do is really the key to this is just playing with these blending modes and just see what we can do for that. I really like that multiply. That's nice, but you really want the colors and the textures of the paper to show through very smoothly. So, okay, so I like soft light. That's looking really good. But my rule is to always go through all of them first, because you never know what they may look like. Okay, that one is looking pretty cool, although it's looking really faded and it's not making our colors look exactly the way that we want. Divide is always very interesting. I love how it makes those midtones really, really rich, and as you can see, it's creating these really cool textures inside of the gradient, but it's still not what I need. So I think I'm going to go to one of these earlier ones. I think that this multiply one is probably my favorite. Darken looks really good too, but it's bringing this weird blue thing, and I just pointed to my screen because apparently you're right next to me. No, it's bringing in these kind of like silvery bluish colors here, and I'm not a big fan of that. So I think what we'll do is I think we'll go with multiply, because it's giving us the best contrast with all of with the color of the paper and then also the effects. So I'm not a big fan of this guy right here, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of him. Content aware fill is a great tool for things like that. And then I don't mind the torn edges right here. This is not it's not the end of the world. And then let's see here. Because I'm trying to think, if this were in a frame, what would you see behind it? I guess you would see black, but you'd also probably see brown because there may be some like a cardboard thing back there. So let's see if we have any availability for. Well, probably not, because I think that is going to determine what the background sees is that blending mode that's up here in this area, unless we were to go in and actually cut out that black right there. So if we were to do that, then the background is going to show through. However, I don't hate that black background right there. So I think I'll just leave it the way it is. All right, so the next thing that I want to do here, and it's probably going to be the final thing, but I'd like to. Well, okay, there's one other thing I'd like to do first, and that's. I'd like to get rid of some of these, basically get rid of the like the grungy, dirty effects on the paper anywhere that we see the band. So I don't really want those to cover up too much. Well, okay, I think what we'll do is I'll just use the clone stamp tool, and we'll just kind of cover up some of those areas that are covering up faces, and just kind of clean those up a little bit. So using a combination of clone stamp and then also, I can never, is it the healing brush? Yeah, spot healing brush, yeah. These are both really good tools to kind of clean up some areas that are, that have some artifacts on them that you want to get rid of. Because we don't really want the faces of the band to be, to look like anything happened to them particularly. Anything around their faces is totally fine. It really adds to the authenticity of it, and really, the artifacts would even add even more to the authenticity of it if they were on their faces, because it could be random, like all of these different areas of aging and everything. However, because I'm able to control it, I'm just going to go ahead and get them out of the area here. And let me take a look at this. I think I may use a clone stamp for this. Okay, good. And to just kind of get rid of that wrinkle a little bit. All right, I think it's looking good there. And there's a little bit more on his face. We'll get rid of that. Okay. All right, I think that everything there looks good. And okay, so the last thing that I was talking about wanting to do is to give it a little bit more of an authentic look, like this was made back in the 60s. One of the things that you would not see is this really sharp text, and I'll zoom in so you can see this. You wouldn't see this, this really super sharp text. Heck, you may not even see like perfectly straight text. So I think what I'm gonna do is on each one of these, on the header, we'll do like the slightest bit of rotation that you can do, because if you do any more than maybe 0.5 degrees or something like that, then it's gonna look weird. Actually, I think I may just do like 0.25 instead of 0.5. So like, as you can see, like here it is regular, and here it is with a slight amount of rotation, because that like the printing process was probably not going to be lined up exactly with the paper. They just didn't really have that ability back in the 60s. So let's do a Gaussian blur, however you say it. And typically for larger pieces of text, you can go like, probably between 2 to 3 pixels, or maybe even up to 5 right here. But for smaller pieces of text, you want to go a little bit less than that. And I think that for this, what we can do, since we have a color overlay going on here, see, you could easily do something like this where it kind of gives it like a splattered effect on there. But I think that I'm gonna see if I can do, since we have that color overlay, I think we're gonna have to make any kind of adjustments like that inside this actual area. So I think I'm going to bring this down to 95%, and that's looking good up there. And I'm going to drag this down to the exact same setting for the colors on the rest of these. And let's just zoom in to make sure that these are actually taking effect, because it's a very subtle change, but we want to make sure that they are showing up. Okay, and then same thing for the website. Okay, good. All right, so now what we'll do is we'll go through each one of these individually, and we will do that Gaussian blur on each one to make sure that we kind of give it that more burned in look. So I'm thinking that for this, we'll probably do maybe a 2. I think 2 is looking good right there. And then probably for the most part, 2 is going to be good for the rest of these. Just so the text doesn't look super crisp and super sharp, because that's not something that would have been achievable. When you're doing things like this, you definitely want it to appear authentic as much as you can, because if you don't, it's just going to ruin the whole illusion. As Bruce Campbell says in Spider-Man 2, it helps maintain the illusion. Okay, I think 1.5 is going to work for that. And let's take a look at it. Full screen, you know, for some reason, I just don't know why, but for some reason that paper texture is just not sitting with me. So let's do this real quick. Let's hide this and let's paste this one on top, because this one, I'm not gonna lie, when I saw it, I actually thought that's the one, but then I wanted to try the other one. But let's see what happens if we set this to multiply. Okay, I think I like that better actually. But let's cycle through these blending modes just to see if there's anything else that works a little bit better. And I think that multiply is probably going to be the best one. I like divide on this one. This one is cool. But I think multiply is going to be what we're going to go with here. And just really quickly, I'm going to go in and wrong keyboard, command there. Just go in here and just kind of clean up these areas a little bit. Okay, that's looking better. I actually don't mind a little bit on their faces. Actually, I think his was the worst before. Now it's definitely a lot better. And then same thing with him. And then maybe we'll just kind of do some spot areas right here. Okay. I wish I could pull off the look of that stubble right there. Like, I've got stubble right now, but whenever I have stubble, like especially if it gets any longer than this, I just look so shaggy and just scraggly. My wife doesn't like it either. And I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just zoom in up here to the top, and I'm gonna get rid of those little holes right there. I know that filling them in is just gonna be a pain, especially to make it look, to actually make it look real. It's gonna be a long and boring and painful process. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get rid of them. All right, so I like the wrinkles here. We've got them, you know, as you know, like it just looks like it was once a poster from the 60s, and then it's been folded up 10 million times. So one thing that we did at the top that we didn't do with the other ones, I'm just gonna go in and do negative 0.25 degree rotation on these, and that should finish us off. And I'm not too familiar with how the process would have been on this, but I assume, you know what happens when you assume, but I assume that this would all possibly be on the same plate, possibly at least the text, maybe not the image, but I just kind of wanted that little bit of a tilt there. So, all right, so here is our vintage style Coldplay concert poster. For a date that I just made up, and you know, they apparently play from 8 p.m. to whenever they feel like stopping. So here it is. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed watching me make that vintage concert poster for Coldplay. It was really fun. I've always wanted to do it. I think I may actually go in and try to refine some of those things, or maybe even do another one in the future. If you like this, please hit like and subscribe down below, and click that bell for notifications. It'll tell you when I upload a new video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Have a great day. Bye-bye.